this is a question regarding a concept known as ecological succession. And the question is like this: the primary succession occurs on barren rock areas and secondary succession does not. Second statement: secondary succession takes a long time for completion, whereas primary succession takes less. So these two are the statements regarding the ecological succession, and there are two types of succession known as primary and secondary. Okay, so let us discuss about the what is this ecological succession means. So simply, the ecological succession means the gradual or the changes happening in an ecosystem. So it's simply the changes happening in an ecosystem by time, over a period of time. Okay, so ecosystem will be undergoing so many changes. Now also we know that the climate, due to the climate change, most of the habitats are converted into deserts like that. Okay, so habitats are losing, right? So these kinds of changes happening in an ecosystem is known as ecological succession. Okay, so the gradual and progressive replacement of one community by another till the development of a stable community in that area. Okay, or a process through which ecosystem tends to change over a period of time is called as ecological succession. So it is simply saying that the changes happening in an ecosystem. Okay, so we know that an ecosystem is the living community, right? So we know the concept regarding ecosystem. Ecosystem is the interaction between living organisms and their environment, or the community of living organisms, right? So we know the concept of community also, right? So an ecosystem will be having a community. So the one ecosystem will be converted into another ecosystem, or one community will be there in an ecosystem, right? That community will be converted or replaced by one community. For example, we can say that grassland ecosystem. Okay, so grassland ecosystem will be, by time it will be converted into some bush ecosystem, and after that this bush ecosystem will be converted into some forest ecosystem like that. Okay, so this is the process of ecological succession: conversion of grassland into bushes ecosystem and bush ecosystem into forest ecosystem. Okay, so on these three stages, what is happening is the grassland community is replaced by bush community, and bush community is replaced by forest community. Okay, so one community is replacing the another community, right? So the changes is happening there. So changes happening in an ecosystem is known as what? Ecological succession, and that is taking place over a period of time only, right? So it will take hundreds of years. So this succession can be related to seasonal environmental changes, which create changes in the community of plants and animals living in the ecosystem. So how these changes is happening? Due to the ecological or environmental conditions, right? So due to climate or due to something else, okay, due to environmental changes, these kinds of changes will happen in an ecosystem, and that is known as ecological succession, right? So in theoretically, the end product will be a stable community. Okay, so I said that there will be changes in an ecosystem, right? And we are assuming that the last thing is the stable community, or we call it as a mature community or mature forest like that, right? So theoretically, a community will be eventually formed, and which is in complete equilibrium with the physical environment, and no further changes will occur to that community, and this is known as the climax community or mature community. Okay, so mostly we call that community as example as the forest ecosystem. Okay, now there are two types of this succession known as primary and secondary. So there are some other classification also. For example, hierarchical succession is there, hierarchical succession is there. Okay, so this kinds of classification is there. Now here in question we only discussed about primary and secondary succession, right? So that's why I am discussing that. So regarding primary succession, it's a formation of one ecosystem from a barren land, from a no lived area or no life area. So we'll be having a no life area, for example a recently erupted rock. So there is no life earlier, right? So from a no lived area there will form a life, or they will form an ecosystem. That kind of changes is known as primary succession. For example, primary succession occurs where there was no ecosystem before, and beginning with a bare surface with no life or soil present, right? So and that's the example like the recently erupted rock, and that will be converted into forest ecosystem. How means the rock will be weathered and it will form some soils, and that soils will be, or that area will be adopted with some species known as pioneer species, for example lichens or lichens. Lichens are the example for pioneer species. Okay, so these are the primary animals, or these are the pioneer species. Pioneer species means the species which is colonizing in a newly developed area. Okay, so and that pioneer species will be replaced by the grasses, and grass will be replaced by bushes. Bushes will be again replaced by forest, like that. Okay, and that is how this primary succession happens. From a no-lived area, a lived area will be formed. Okay. Now regarding secondary succession, secondary means, so already now we are having a primary succession, right? And by that primary succession we are having a forest, and that forest will be cleared by, or that community will be cleared by some other environmental changes or environmental calamities. For example, by the forest fire a forest is cleared, or by the earthquake and a community is destroyed, or by some flood a region is destroyed. Okay, so just we can take the example of forest fire. So by the forest fire a forest is cleared, and that forest will be reoccupied or regenerated by again by the grasses. Okay, that process is known as, that is also a change, a kind of change, right? So that process is known as secondary succession. So secondary succession means already there were once a living organisms, or already there were a life, and that life was destroyed due to some environmental calamities, and that will be again regrown. Okay, so that is known as secondary succession. So in that secondary and primary will take more time, because primary will need to make soil, and they need to enrich the soil with nutrients. Okay, so that much time will take. So it will take long time to form a mature forest in primary succession. But regarding secondary succession, it is already having a nutrient rich soil. Okay, so the grasses can easily grow there. Again it will be much faster than that of primary. Okay, so secondary succession begins in a place that already has soil and was once the home of living organisms. Okay, and secondary succession takes a less for completion, and primary succession occurs on barren rock areas, and secondary succession does not. So the secondary takes less time for forming the mature, and primary will take more. And regarding this, primary succession occurs on a barren rock areas, and secondary does not, because secondary occurs on a lived area or pre-lived area. Okay, so that's the main points regarding succession, ecological succession. And there are some types of succession also, like the hierarch, all this. Just go through that. Okay, so just have an idea about what is this hierarch and what is this hierarch, like that. So just go through the question again. Now first statement, primary succession occurs on barren rock and secondary succession does not. So that's the correct statement, because secondary starts from a lived area, not on a barren or rock, right? So that's why first statement is correct. So we eliminated D and B. Then second statement, secondary succession takes a long time for completion, whereas primary succession takes less. That's a wrong statement, because secondary takes small time and primary takes long time, right? So that's why second statement is wrong. So we got the answer as A. One only is the answer. First statement is only the correct statement.